Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A lot of questions after the Browns' victory over the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm just going to jump right into it, and we're going to start here with a question from Jesus, who says, how much do you think the O-line will struggle against the Chargers front four compared to what they faced versus the Vikings? I'm a little worried about the left side. This has a lot to do with a couple of things. One thing I learned from last year is it is a lot easier to put an offensive lineman out there in mid-game, out of position, and have them exist for a half than it is to get somebody who's not normally a starting offensive tackle or not normally an offensive tackle prepared to start a game, right? Because then teams can plan on how they're going to attack that person. All these other things make it more difficult, right? Remember when Nick Harris went to guard versus the Giants, looked good, played guard versus the Jets, and was the weak link in that game and got attacked mercifully. So that is definitely a thing, and I worry about that. If James Hudson has to start, knowing that he really wasn't ready in the preseason, is that going to be something to where teams can really exploit, especially a team that has Joey Bosa employed under them? So that's definitely a valid concern. My biggest question or answer to that question would rely on if Chris Hubbard is going to be ready to play. If Chris Hubbard can play, and you can throw Chris Hubbard out there, and he can be your left tackle, or he's probably just going to have to be left tackle. But if you can put Chris Hubbard out there, hey, I think you'll be all right. I really do think you'll be all right. It's not going to be great, but you'll be all right. I don't want to see Jedrick Wills out there with a blown wheel. He had been on a donut for the last 3 weeks, and that donut popped, and now he has no wheel. Like, he can't get to his third step on his drop. He is physically not capable of playing left tackle right now. So it's either going to be James Hudson or Chris Hubbard. If it's James Hudson, I worry about teams knowing he's going to be there, knowing the weaknesses, and knowing that he's a young tackle and attacking that violently. If it's Chris Hubbard, I feel like you can exist with Chris Hubbard out there on the offensive line, but it's not a desirable situation at all. But I think that's probably the best case scenario, right? If Chris Hubbard can get out there, I think he'll be all right. But if it's James Hudson, unless he just turned it around in training camp, or when they started practice without me knowing, hey, and he's ready to go, then he's ready to go. But, he's been practicing on the right side. It'll be a difficult task for him, especially as a young player. Next question comes from Philip, who says, hey, Q, with the way things have looked this year so far, would it be an overreaction to say Kareem Hunt is better than Nick Chubb? Chubb hasn't looked like himself, and he hasn't had the explosive plays that Kareem Hunt has had. Overall, as players, no, Kareem Hunt's not better than Nick Chubb. Not as a runner, not even remotely. Overall this year, yeah, Kareem Hunt's been better than Nick Chubb, or at least better in the doses that they use him. Now, it's kind of hard to gauge that because Kareem Hunt does get to go out there and run the ball on less obvious run downs. When the Browns run the ball with Nick Chubb, it's very obvious they're going to run the ball with Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb, they're working at a different advantage here, and I think that's why you see Kareem be able to break more runs off at this point, because the offense has just gotten a little bit predictable, and that's part of it. And why the offense is predictable, I don't know, because they really weren't last year. It just seems like Kevin is holding back a lot in this playbook right now, and that's really affecting the run game. That's certainly something I've heard, though, right? Is Kareem Hunt better than Nick Chubb? No, Kareem Hunt's not. Remember when Kareem Hunt was the starting running back for like a few weeks when Nick Chubb was hurt, and then Nick Chubb came back, and immediately we were like, oh my God, Nick Chubb's way better than Kareem Hunt. That didn't go anywhere. I just don't think right now they're using Nick Chubb in optimal situations. I don't think Baker's making Nick Chubb's job any easier right now because he's just not executing at the level that people expect him to in order to kind of spread out boxes for him when you are going to run on some obvious rundowns. The next question comes from Craig, who says, why were there so few bootlegs getting called in a Minnesota game? It seems Baker seems to get in a rhythm in the rollout. One, I honestly think Kevin Stefanski is calling the game in some ways very aware that Baker Mayfield just had his shoulder popped out of his arm and he doesn't want him to miss games. I don't think that is affecting Baker Mayfield, the actual pain of his shoulder. I don't think that's anything that's affecting him because, quite frankly, he came back and played well in that Texans game after he threw the interception. Remember, he threw the interception before he popped that shoulder out. I don't think it's affecting Baker, but it's affecting the play calling because he is calling a game in which he wants Baker to take as little hits as possible. But also, he caught a couple of design runs for Baker Mayfield in the meantime. So I have no idea what's affecting the play calling and what's not. I'm just saying if you're not going to call bootlegs, the only reason I can see that justifies it, although the logic doesn't cleanly track with all the other play calling, would be that on a bootleg, you're going to leave a quarterback out there exposed to take a hit most of the time, and you just don't want Baker to take a hit because he has that shoulder. But I just don't see any evidence that the show. I mean, you can make evidence if you want it, right? People have been making evidence of it. But I just don't think anything that I've heard about how that shoulder's affecting Baker is plausible or credible. And Baker certainly doesn't indicate that it's a problem. Now, it's kind of hard to go off of because Baker doesn't really sell injuries. But his teammates, they noted in practice, it doesn't seem like it's affecting him. It seems like Baker Mayfield in practice all week. So now I don't know why they're not calling more bootlegs. I don't know why the play calling has been so stripped down from what it was at the end of last year. I can only think that it's because Kevin's holding some plays back in the early part of the season versus some teams that he felt like were beatable without the extra garnishes, which honestly would be true because they did go 3-1 in this stretch, but doesn't make it any less frustrating to watch. The next question comes from Captain Shadow, who says, do you think AVP should be calling the plays? He was spectacular when he did it. Won't solve all the problems on our offense, but it could be the jolt they currently need. No, he shouldn't take over play calling right now. If the offense looks terrible, up until we start to get into division games, I'm talking week 8, week 9, then you might want to do that just so you can switch it up a bit to get something going in that offense. But as of right now, I really see no reason to give up play calling. I think it would be a little unnecessary. Next question comes from Wally, who says, hey Q, love the live streams. Your cat be in the screen like Diddy. Yeah, she do. But my question is, with Walker coming back and Malcolm Smith playing fairly good, what would you do? Because it seems that the linebackers are having some chemistry with each other with Smith in the lineup. Think you stumbled upon something with the injuries that you're not going to want to stumble off of, which is that nickel package with JOK and Malcolm Smith. And even when you go to base with Sione Takitaki, JOK, and Malcolm Smith, it's a pretty good package to go out there with. Those are your 3 best linebackers. I've thought that for the longest that those were the 3 best linebackers on the team, JOK, Sione Takitaki, and Malcolm Smith. And I think those 3 should be on the field the most. Anthony Walker can take the 10 or 12 snaps that that Mac Wilson has, and you can divvy it up between the rest of those guys, but those should be the 3 primary linebackers for this team right now. The next question comes from Pee Wee, who says, do you think Baker is trying to keep his interception numbers down because of his potential contract? He seems to rather throw the ball out of bounds than give his receivers a chance at a 50-50 ball. Nah, I don't think this is true. One, the whole him throwing it out of bounds instead of 50-50 ball is a change that tracks more with Kevin Stefanski than it does with Baker being in the contract situation. Like, I think that has nothing to do with how Baker's playing right now. He was throwing the ball out of bounds all the time last year, so I don't think that's the case. I think it's more or less what he's being coached to do, which is, hey, don't turn the ball over, don't throw an interception, don't make things worse than they already have to be, right? So I think that's more or less coaching that he's getting, to not really just put the ball up out there. And, it has its merits, right? The less interceptions he throws, the more wins the Browns tend to have. So, no, I don't think he's trying to peel his interception numbers back. I don't think because honestly, right, if this were a dude that was just worried about getting a big contract number, he would be throwing those 50-50 balls, right? Because I know if I were in a contract year and all I was worried about was my money, I would throw as many 50-50 balls up as possible because, one, they're not always going to get intercepted, and two, you might get some useless pass yardage added to him. Like, Baker doesn't play a style that's generous to getting a big extension just because he doesn't accumulate a ton of passing yards or any of the flashy stats. So, I don't think that has a single thing to do with it. The next question comes from Killer, who says, why don't us Browns fans ever mention McDowell? I remember last year we couldn't stop anything up the middle. I mean, I talk about Malik McDowell almost every video. But yeah, Malik McDowell has been excellent up there. Now, he plays a position that's unheralded, and defensive tackles, unless they're Aaron Donald, aren't going to get talked about a ton. But yeah, I think there's been a healthy discussion about how well McDowell's been playing and a healthy appreciation of him. So, I think Browns fans are, supporting Malik McDowell a sufficient amount. And I think, we're all proud of the level of play that he's had. The next question comes from Joshua Hicks, who says, hey, Q, with the state of our offensive line, how do you think we will hold up against the Chargers D-line, especially Joey Bosa lining up on the left or right side? I'm not confident in Jack Conklin right now after he played last week. And I have no idea who's going to play left tackle this week. So we'll see. We will see. That is going to be a tough task. They have not been blocking well, but hey, maybe this is the week they turn it around. But, that would be kind of shocking at this point if this is the week they turned it around. I would expect the Browns to run the ball a lot away from Joey Bosa most this game, and play action boot away from Joey Bosa for most this game, if they do anything along the lines. But yeah, I don't know what the plan is, because I don't even know who's the personnel that's going to be out there, and what else are they going to do there. Kevin Stefanski and this offense has been in a ton of 5-man protections, which have not been working out. I hope we see a return to a lot of help in those protections and everything else, but we'll see. But that's it for this week's Q&A. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Please have a great day. Have a good night.